So let's recap. We have the client and the server. And our goal here is to write Ruby code that lives on the server, handles incoming requests, and responds with appropriate content back to the client. So that's the role of Ruby in web development. So where does Sinatra fit into this equation? Sinatra is a Ruby gem that helps us build web applications faster than we could otherwise. Sinatra is what is known as a framework. It's a tool that makes our lives easier, and it makes web development with Ruby simpler and faster. So you could write an entire web application without any tools or frameworks like Sinatra to help you out, but it would take much, much longer to do so. We would have to write all of our own basic web development infrastructure code. That includes things like listening to ports, parsing HTTP request headers, providing middleware hooks, constructing responses, compiling templates, handling errors, scheduling and concurrency, and managing development environments, along with a whole bunch of other stuff you would need to worry about. It's pretty crazy stuff. And not only is this a ton of code, it's all pretty complex stuff to write. And I'd wager that most web developers out there wouldn't know where to start. Fortunately, we have frameworks like Sinatra out there that help us, so we don't have to worry about most of this stuff to get going. A common misconception is that frameworks will actually write applications for you, that frameworks somehow do all of the work, or that they're like mean-spirited robots like this one that write your code for you and gain total control over everything, including your application and your free will. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Frameworks are more like friendly robots that just want to help you out, like this one here. They're tools that abstract away the code that is common to all web applications, all the groundwork, so that you can focus on writing the code that makes your application unique, and you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. Thanks, friendly robot. But how do frameworks do this? Well, Sinatra does it by providing a bunch of helpful methods that we can use in our own applications. Just by including Sinatra in a Ruby app with a single line, we get access to all of these built-in methods for free. As you can see here, there's quite a few of them, pages and pages of these methods that we get for free. So for example, here are 3 very simple lines typical of a Sinatra app that use 2 different Sinatra methods, get and send file. Though this appears pretty simple, there are hundreds and hundreds of lines of Ruby at work behind the scenes built into the Sinatra source code. So let's take a 5-second tour of the Sinatra source. This get method looks like this. This get method also calls another method called route that looks like this. Route calls a bunch of methods, including route eval and process route. And process route looks like this, which calls a params method that looks like this. And then the other method we saw was send file, which is pretty lengthy too. So this should look pretty confusing and probably scary. And that's the point, is that we don't have to worry about this. Would you want to write all this stuff just to get a simple app up and running? Well, with Sinatra, you don't. Sinatra helps us so we can just focus on writing the code that makes your application your application. And to be clear, there are tons of different tools that web developers use when creating apps, like Django for Python, Express for Node.js, and most popular of all, Ruby on Rails for Ruby, that exist to make web development easier. But they do each have their own particular uses and specialties. Sinatra in particular is popular for its simplicity and ease of use, and it makes a really good first framework before you jump on to a more complex framework like Ruby on Rails.